Hello, welcome to my presentation on Qt Creator. So I'm the last guy between you and the coffee break, so I try to be brief. My name is Tobias, and what qualifies me to speak here about Qt Creator to you? So my first exposure to Qt was I learned with horror a couple of days ago, 15 years ago, when Matthias Ettrich wrote this famous mail about founding the KDE project. At that time, I downloaded Qt and played with it a bit, but I didn't really get seriously involved. That only started about 6 years ago, about something like that, when I joined one of the partners of this event here and did consulting work for them. 2 years ago, I joined Nokia, and since then I'm part of the Qt Creator team in Berlin. So I'm one of those guys, even though I'm not on that picture actually. So what I want to do today is talk about what is Qt Creator. So have you guys actually used Creator before? Oh, cool. Some users. So.
Wait a little bit about how cool it is.
Okay. So then I wanted to show how I use it, because, well, I can only speak for myself, so I can show what I do. Recapitulate some tips and tricks that I'm going to show when I'm showing how I work with it, and finally some URLs where you can get the code and contribute and all that stuff. So what is Qt Creator? We do have a marketing department, and these guys came up with this nice sentence. So, Qt Creator is a cross-platform integrated development environment tailored to the needs of Qt developers. So, what does that mean for us? Well, cross-platform is pretty clear to anybody working with Qt. We wanted some environment that works everywhere where Qt is available. So that's Mac, Linux, Windows. And we wanted to have some integrated environment. So all the tools that or most of the tools that you work with and need to work with as a developer, they should be integrated in one environment and available to you at your fingertips. So this includes a great editor. It includes the help for Qt and other stuff. It includes debuggers, of course, and version control systems like Git, Bazaar, concurrent versioning system, CVS, Subversion, whatever. And we wanted to have that for the needs of the Qt developers. So we heavily optimized that for the use cases we see in our daily work with Qt. And we wanted to have strong support for the languages which are used in Qt. That's C++, of course, and with QML being used more and more. That also includes JavaScript as well as QML itself. And we do also support a bit of the OpenGL shading language. So it's very well suited for Qt development. And most important to me, that's not in this sentence, we want an environment that we like to work in ourselves. So basically all of the guys in our team use Qt Creator to develop on Qt Creator. So we use it a lot. And we want something that's simple and is fun to work with. So, can you show it? Okay. Of course I can. So, the first thing I use a lot is a simple command line argument, which is color. Okay. Sorry, my keyboard layout is a bit screwed up. And that takes just some random RGB value, and it changes the tint of the creator when it's finally started up. My wife is joking that she can only tell whether I'm at work or working from home or doing some private stuff by the color of Qt Creator. So this is now very reddish. The default is gray. So let me get started by going through a couple of settings, because when I start a new environment, I usually tweak it a bit to my liking. And there are a couple of places which need tweaking. So those are in Tools Options. And one area I want to point out to you here is Environment Keyboard. And why am I mentioning that? We do get quite a lot of people asking us whether some keyboard shortcut or some functionality to move lines around or whatever is implemented. And rather often it's actually already there, but we don't define a standard keyboard shortcut for that. So you can do that here. And it's also a nice place to look up existing keyboard shortcuts. Oops, sorry. What I also wanted to show is the text editor settings, which has, let's just choose a font which is a bit bigger, so you can see the code better later. And that's an interesting area again, because this is where you can also define all the highlighting we do. And there's quite a lot of things, but some of those are just highlighted with a standard black font, because we don't want to be too colorful. So what I like to do is create my own color scheme. And the one thing I usually do is I define highlighting for local variables to be bold. So let me apply that. Something that's rather important for Windows users is the file encoding, which is here. Do you actually see the mouse pointers? Does that work for you guys? Okay. So if you work in a cross-platform environment, you usually want to actually define this to usually UTF-8. That's especially important when working with Windows, because that's basically the only system we support fully which is not by default using UTF-8. And especially when having developers in different countries, you can get quite a mess up with the encodings in your project. And there's also the generic highlighter. So for most of the things, we have a code model. So we have Qt Creator actually understands C++ code and parses it and gets the information from that model it generates. That's the same for QML and all the other languages we fully support. But there are lots of other files which we don't have a code model for, like Python files or Make files or whatever. And for that we support the generic highlighting, which is basically a set of XML files which define patterns or regular expressions to use for highlighting. And we use those available with the Qt text editor. So if you're not in a KDE environment, you might want to go to download here, which I can't do at the moment because I'm not online, and get more highlighting files because we cannot include all of them for copyright reasons. Our KDE users already have them installed, so they should be fine. One other thing I want to point out is Qt Creator is plugin-based applications. So everything we do is basically implemented in a plugin. And if you want to have a really lean environment, you can go over the list of available plugins and disable those you don't need. Like we have quite a lot of different version control systems available here. You can just untick them and those plugins will not be loaded, which slightly speeds up startup of Creator and also removes some settings which might be not wanted or needed in your particular setup of the project. So those are the settings I wanted to show. So I was looking for some medium-sized code base to demonstrate code navigation with, and well, there is one I know pretty well. So let's just go here and create a new project. Well, the project I choose is Qt Creator itself, so that's available under version control system. It's in Git, so I just choose that. And I have to admit I cheated a bit because I already pulled it to my hard drive. So I check it out from my local drive, which is way faster than going over the network, especially with a shaky wireless like you have on events like this. So it's cloning that now into my current directory, and while it does that, let's just go over the user interface and what you see when opening Creator. So for one thing, we have this area here, which we call the mode selector. It enables you to jump between different, well, it's a mode selector, to jump between different modes, where each mode basically is some view on your project optimized for some development task. So we have the editor, the debugger, so some analyzing tools, the help, and project management. Then here you have the target selector, which is a quick way to switch between targets. A target being a device or desktop environment you want to develop for. We have some big shortcut keys here for the most important things. That's building down here, debugging and running the application. And we have a list of output panes down here, which are basically just places to show certain kinds of information. So while the cloning is done, so we can continue here, that's great. I wanted to have a desktop project, so I just go with the defaults, and now Creator will go over all the files of the project, which takes a moment, and will then open up the user interface to edit files. So the default mode is edit, which is where you edit your source code. Yay. In edit mode, you have the so-called sidebar here, which offers you different views on your project. So by default, it's the structure of your project files, but you can also go and switch, for example, to a glass browser-based view. Let me simplify that a bit, where you can see all the namespaces and classes and everything that's defined there. I personally tend to stick with the project, so the code is there. Let's just start to explore a bit. So, well, let's start by looking at the main function. And for that, we will use this area down here, which is Locator. And that's basically the best feature in Creator, in my opinion. And you just trigger it by hitting Control-K. And you saw the slide pop-up, which is a small modification that I borrowed from Master Branch, which just shows all the keyboard shortcuts I'm using, so you can actually see what I'm doing. The Locator is basically the most convenient way to jump around in your code and open stuff, view stuff. And you can filter for different things, like you can only make it search over the files in the methods in your current document and all that. So let's just start by, well, I know that the main method is in the main CPP file. So let's just type in the file name and it will search the project for all main CPP files. And this one in source app looks like the one I want. So I can just go there and open the file. Let me make a bit more room for the code. So, well, it's a big file. So I want to go to the main method. So I use the Locator again. And just as you can see here, which has all the shortcuts that the Locator supports, just doing a dot search in the local file. So I can just jump to the main method. So the top here of this method is basically boilerplate stuff. And now Now down here it gets interesting with the plugin manager. So I'm curious what that thing actually does, and so what I could do now is just go back to the locator and ask it to find the class plugin manager. You see we have a couple, there's one in the extension system. Well, that's not really convenient, so I can just, we have a method to follow symbols and everything else, so we just press F2 and it will just take me there. There's another shortcut I really like a lot, which is F4, which just shifts between the source and the header file and the source file itself. So let's go back. So that's basically the main method of code navigation I'm using. Something else that's very important is getting help. So we have the help, the Qt Creator or the Qt help integrated. So again, you could use the locator and just ask for QList, and it would offers all that information there, and you can just go there. Or what's a bit simpler in this case, if you're already on that symbol, you can just hit the F1 key, and that will open up the help next to your code. And if you press F1 again, it will do the full screen thing, and you can navigate here and check out all the information you need. So if you want to go back to your code, that's a generic rule in Creator. You just hit escape. Maybe you need to hit it a couple of times, but it will always get you back to your code, because that's where the center of your work is. So let's do some modifications to this class. So the plugin manager is pretty aptly named. It manages plugins. So let's assume we wanted to add a new method here, which can be used to check whether a plugin of a certain name is actually loaded. So let's just go bool plugin loaded and ask for a name. There's some method which is new in Qt Creator 2.4, which was released as a beta last week. That's a huge time saver, and I really love it, and I don't want to go back with it again, which is the quick fixes, which are triggered by Alt and the return key. And we now have one to add a definition to the plugin manager. I just hit it and have my method there, and I really love this. You can also, well, QString is not using a QString directory is not a good idea, so let's turn this in a const reference and use our alt return again and apply these changes back. So there it going back to the header file that's updated. So something I mentioned before is that Qt Creator actually understands your C++ code. So what does that mean? So the first thing is we have highlighting for all the code, which is based on the code model itself. So it's not some regular expressions which trigger or may not trigger. It's really understanding the code and doing the right thing for that. It also means that we have code completion. So here we can, for example, do for each plugin spec pointer p. We have this plugins method up here, so which returns all the a list of all the plugin specs. So we just use that. And if you look very closely here, you will see that this letter here is underlined with a wiggly green line, which is really it's really hard to see in this here. Let me just... So it's a bit better to see now? Yeah. So that's semantic highlighting we do. So if I hover over this, it will tell me what it thinks it's wrong, and it says it's an unused variable here. Well, that's based on this analysis of the code model does. It, of course, also does syntactic highlighting, so if I do some stupid things here, it should actually highlight that. Great. Let's just do something else on. So let's just check whether this current plugin, that's a plugin spec. So let's check what the plugin spec actually is. And it has, again by pressing F2, so to jump to that code. And it has a name method which returns the name of the plugin. So up here, back and forward button to ease navigation, but you can have the same effect by just going Alt left to go back and Alt right to go forward again, which is also very convenient. So let's just call the name method here and compare that to the name we got. And if that's the same, then we can just return true. And here we can return false. So you notice there's a curly red underline here under that brace. So that's the mark that the code model thinks there's some error here. So hovering here, it informs me that it had expected a semicolon somewhere. So let's just add that. We also support something with the code model. We can also check where methods and symbols are used in our project. That's Control-Shift-U. And it will just go over all the files in the project and all the data we have about that and find out where that is actually showing up and used, which is a really great way to find your way around code and find where stuff is used. And that's not using any regular expressions or text matches. It's really picking up that symbol name and making sure it shows up. It's the right symbol, and it's not confused by symbols of the same name in a different namespace. So searching stuff is already pretty nice and interesting, but we can also refactor that and ask Creator to update the name. So we can just change the name from plugins to, let's call it plugin list. And you see, we change it here. It also updated all references to that plugin, to the name plugin manager plugin to that method, and you can see it down here that it really did that. So do that. So quick fixes. There's something that's also very nice as the so-called quick fixes, which are, let's show one of them. We have several. For example, when going on a string, you can again trigger this Alt return key. So a list of quick fixes which are possible for some element. And here you can choose what you want to do. You can mark it as translatable, which will, depending on the context, you call this in, either add the tr method from QObject or QCure application translate or whatever is needed to actually make it translatable. You can include it in QLatin1 strings. And there are a couple of other optimization, other small code updates and changes you can do with that. So it was basically the stuff I use regularly and I really love to use. So is there something I missed that you guys are using a lot? No, so no more suggestions? No? Yeah, down there.
Can you repeat? You define the function in your header file, and how did you copy the function body to the CPP file?
So the question was how I copied the function body into the CPP file. So let me just do that again. As you saw, I pressed F4 to get to the header file. So now I just define that a method, how do you want to call it? Test method. That's wrong here. Now I press Alt return again. Have these quick fixes, and one of them is add definition in the corresponding CPP file.
So this works only in the version you downloaded on Friday?
Or it works in, this function is already in 2.3, but it does, or it's not really working well there yet. So this is the beta release we released last week. So it will be in 2.4, which should be out in a couple of weeks.
I can repeat it. Doesn't work for me.
I'll show you. Well, you have to wait for the 2.4 then. I'm sorry. So, any questions? Anything I want? Yeah.
We're trying to, we're defining CMake files.
Yeah.
Projects. And one thing that's, in the project view, I can't see my header files. Is that normal, or am I doing something wrong?
The question was whether it's normal for CMake projects to not list the header files. And I'm afraid that is normal, because CMake does not provide the information to us. It does not contain the header files that are used, and there's no way to find it out.
You have a CMake macro that's called...
The question was whether you can add doxygen comments to your to the F1 navigation for the help, and so far it's not possible now. Yes? Well, the question is whether this list you see now is alphabetically ordered, and it's not. The simple reason for that, ordering takes too much time, so it would just delay popping up that thing so much that it's not worth it. But I actually recommend using Control K dot and go wherever you need. Yeah.
I'm using this Qt bugs very often. Is it possible to click on a variable name and create this debug, and after testing remove all those debugs or debug statements?
I'm not aware that it's possible at this time, but that's a very good idea. We should look into doing that, yes. Back there?
How do you start Qt Creator with a different layout? I can't see it. That's the beginning.
What do you mean with layout?
From the command line. Start from the command
this
line.
One here? You mean this view?
Yes.
That's the 2.4 beta release, so that looks a bit different in the welcome screen.
You have used in the command line a parameter after creator.
Yeah, that was just the color, so it basically tinted all the whole UI here red.
Yeah,
so
how is the parameter called? I can't see it from over here.
Let me switch. It's just color.
Color and
followed
then
by some RGB value of
RGB value. Okay.
So let me just show it without the color option, so you see that it actually.
Then it's normally gray.
So now it's the normal grayish thing.
And you use the RGB parameter.
Yeah, I use that a lot because I have several different projects, and I well, I have the creator I develop in is a red, and the one I start is not red. So I can keep those separate. And if I have separate projects, I have all kinds of different colors.
Okay, thanks.
Welcome. Oh, more questions. Cool.
What I'm really missing is block editing. For instance, selecting a rectangle and deleting the whole rectangle and things like that.
Well, our editor guys right here in front says it's possible. So,
Alt-Shift. Alt and Shift.
It's
Alt and Shift.
So let's try that. Alt, Shift. Yeah. So is that what you wanted?
Yeah.
Great. One other happy camper. Oh, so many questions. Great.
Hello, I was wondering if it's possible to implement pure virtual functions automatically, like with the Alt-Enter thing.
Or I think we don't have that yet. Well, that would be cool, yeah.
It would be interesting.
So do you mind if I just recapitulate a bit and show a couple of URLs and then we can continue with the questioning? Okay, so let's recapitulate. So, or something I think is very important is please check Tools Options, which has all the settings, or Environment Keyboard and Text Editor Fonts and Colors. There's stuff you might want to see there which is not on by default, but please go over the others as well because there are quite a few settings there where you can tweak Creator to your liking. Use Ctrl-K. It's something it took me a while to get used to, but it's really the best thing we have in Creator. Use F2, F4, Alt-Left, Alt-Right to go back and forth for navigation, and check out the quick fixes. And the best tip yet, read the documentation. It's really great. No, seriously, I try to read it every release just to make sure it's still up to date and stuff. And so far I learned something new each time I read it. So I really recommend reading that. So where can I get it? Just a couple of URLs. It's a normal place for the downloads. Our sources are in Gitorius. They are still there. It's a mirror to the code review Qt.org now. And if you want to get in contact with us, the team hangs out in IRC. It's the Qt Creator channel in Freenode. We do have a mailing list. The URL here is up to date. So that's a new one, which is up since Friday. The slides I handed in for the, I don't know, for the USB sticks, I think they still have the old one. Please do report bugs and feature requests. We do appreciate them. We might not act right away on them, but each and every bug report is read and is appreciated. And if you want to contribute stuff, we have this wonderful new qtproject.org set up, which makes it really a lot easier for all parties concerned to do so. So that's all I wanted to show, so let's continue with the questions if you still have some.
Please take the mic. I have a question about debugging with the MGV compiler on Windows.
Yep.
With my version of the SDK, debugging, especially with, let's say, 4 or 5 breakpoints, the more breakpoints I set, debugging is getting slower and slower, especially program loading and running. Is this faster now? Or is there something worked on it? Or is it still because it's horrible, let's say.
Well, we are constantly improving it, and the experience on Windows is not as good as for debugging, especially on Windows, is not as well as we like it yet. So we're working on it.
I don't know, especially I think it's from 4 or 5 2010 or something from the SDK. I don't know exactly. A few days ago I've just downloaded the current one, but I can't install it because not enough time. So it's better running debugging on Linux, or is there the thing better?
In my experience, it's way nicer on Linux, especially if you have a GDB version 7.2 or later, which is a very current one. But which one you have usually depends on your Linux distribution. Please make sure it's at least 7.0, and for best results, use 7.2, please.
There was a change from 2.2 to 2.3, so you might at least want to check 2.3.
And as my colleague just said, you should check version 2.3 or later of Qt Creator, because there were quite a couple of speeds ups in that area there.
Yeah, first of all, I'd like to give some positive feedback, because we switched to Qt Creator a while ago. We came from something else I don't want to name here.
Thanks.
But everybody in our group is happy using it, and I think it eased the work a lot. The other thing is that you can configure project interdependencies in the Qt Creator in the project option. And we have one problem with that, which is that these settings are stored in the pro.user files,
Yep.
which is a problem, I think, a little bit, because it is user-specific, and when you commit them to a repository and you check out, these settings get lost somehow. I mean, you shouldn't commit these files. And
So I usually recommend not using these, because for exactly those reasons you mentioned. There's another issue with these, they're not causing a rebuild if some of the basic libraries other projects depend on that. This will not cause a rebuild. So I recommend using or moving that information into the build system by having a profile with a subds template. I can explain that to you later. I think it's getting out of scope for this discussion here. But I recommend doing that because the build system itself is committed and available to everybody and does proper dependency tracking. So please, that's the way to go in my opinion. So, yeah, Max here.
Hi there. I just wanted to ask if Lion is now fully supported, or is it still Snow Leopard?
I don't know. I can find it out for you.
Do I have to use QMake to get all the benefits, or is it possible to use a Makefile-based approach?
QMake is the one that we use in our build system, so that's the one with the most testing behind it. You can also have CMake projects, which works pretty well, apart from the annoying thing that the headers are not always listed. Basically, they are not listed. In addition, you can have generic projects, which are, well, in that case, your creator creates a couple of files where you list your dependencies and information about your include directories and all that stuff we need for the code model in some separate files, and then you can use whatever build system you like. With the new QtProjects.org thing, we already have one contribution waiting which has support for the auto tools. So that you can directly load makefile.am and run configure and have all that magic there. It's not merged, not even master, but it's there, and the people there are pushing hard to get it into Creator. Just behind you.
I pick up this question, and my question is going, I want to
generate with a quick generator or Qt generator an overview, and then want to port it to Eclipse IDE. Is it possible, and compile it then, cross-compiling?
I don't know. I have to find that out. Sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Well, my question is quite short, but maybe have followed by a long answer. What does the analyze menu offer?
Well, the analyzer is currently, great. Some graphic glitches again, great. We currently support QML profiling and Valgrind on Linux mostly, but we are working on improving that. So it's not quite where we want it yet. It works, but it's not perfect. So if not, then thank you for your attention, and the coffee break coffee stuff should be outside the room, so enjoy.